Right, well, there we go. That is testing over and done with. We've had 6 days in Catalonia, 3 this week, and of course 3 last week, which I've already rounded up in a video last time. So if you haven't seen that, go and check that out already. 6 days, 2 less than last year. I would say that was an improvement for Formula One. You know, we don't want to see all this testing. Of course, it's just nice to see the cars on the track before Melbourne. Now we have a 3 week gap, and I know, guys, 3 weeks. You know, it can seem like that's a very long time. But don't worry, that was about 3 months between Abu Dhabi and before winter testing. So, you know, you made it that far, so you can make it a little bit until Melbourne. And obviously, there's a big thing that came out today, which I'll talk about a little bit at the end of the episode, which obviously might help you in that transition from today to FP1 in Australia. Anyways, so winter testing in these 3 days, well, it was good. I mean, we were excited, especially what we'd seen last week. You know, anything could happen. Big talking points from last week, of course, was the DAS system. Ferrari, you know, are they sandbagging? You know, what's going on with them? I explained a little bit of it in the F1 24/7 news segment that we do. That was on Wednesday, so go and check that out. I talked a little bit about Ferrari. Are they possibly sandbagging, and what is going on with them? And then. Apart from that, not much really. Of course, we've seen the introduction of the brand new team, AlphaTauri. The transition from the name change from Toro Rosso. I've seen some good liveries as well. That was about the main talking points. And then obviously these 3 days now, we've all seen the cars. We've all kind of given our opinions on them. We've all had, you know, first times from them. Now it's, you know, get on, get going 3 days before the season starts. So they've got to make some big progress. And I would say that it is looking pretty good from what we have seen. First off, the rain came on Wednesday and Thursday and a little bit this morning. That was great to see. Of course, last week they were running the dry compound tyres. This week they were transitioning between the dry compounds and the wet compounds. So Pirelli have now tested them all. I know that a few cars do test them out. In the olden days, they used to wet the track. They don't do that anymore now. So yes, Pirelli will be very happy with that. And we saw some big changes, I would say. So, test one, we saw some big drivers go out. It's not just the main six. If you're new to Formula One, you might think that this is how it's run all the time. It's not just the main six. We do have some big changes in, you know, in the time, and obviously some teams coming through that we wouldn't be used to. And this was the big one, day one, of course. Robert Kubica, Alfa Romeo, he tops the session 1:16.9. Now, firstly, smashing time, absolutely smashing. 1:17.1 is what we were looking at last week. Valtteri Bottas, Lewis Hamilton, respectively, they posted that kind of time as well. I remember because Ferrari were about a second off that. That's a stonker of a time. It really, really is. 53 laps was done by him. That is very much the length of the Spanish Grand Prix later on in the year. So I would say that was incredible. After a great pre-season that he had last week, Robert Kubica, the third driver. He's not even the main driver at Alfa Romeo, but he's going out in that car and proving that, you know, I mean, Robert, this is what you should have done last year. This is what you should have done last year in the Mercedes, in the Williams, sorry. But I mean, maybe that's what he wanted to do. Maybe that's, you know, how good he wanted to be. He just couldn't find it in the Williams, but he's found it in the Alfa Romeo, and I'm very happy about that. So 1:16.9 for him. Max Verstappen, Mr. Consistent here. 83 laps for him. 1:17.3. Max, I've said this once and I've said it again. He's becoming now, I don't want to say the leader of Red Bull because he always was, but he is very much like a mature kind of it's hard to explain, like kind of a Jensen Button kind of figure. You know, that's what we're expecting from Max. You know, 83 consistent laps, very little spinning, very little problems, and you know, all this talk about him going for the World Championship and is he too aggressive? Well, what we're seeing in pre-season is the right direction for Max. Not as aggressive, but very consistent, and that's what I'm loving about that. So second place for him. He had a few spins, of course, but you know, pretty strong from the Dutchman. Also, the Red Bull car, very, very good, very strong. Not much change from last year, but got a very good aero package. They've been testing a lot of the aero fences out this week, these 3 days even. So it's looking really good for the rest of the season. Sergio Perez in the Racing Point. We'll get on to him in a little bit. 84 laps, one more than the Dutchman. Danny Kvyat in the Alpha Tauri with Pierre Gasly in 5th place. So 4th and 5th for two. They're both Alpha Tauri drivers. Both drivers out for the Italian team. Very strong from them. They've got to have had some big testing out there. They've had the fences out. They've had the floor gel out. Some good testing from them. Of course, last week was very good from them. This week, wanting to do a lot better. Of course, wanting to hit the ground running when they get to Australia. 6th place is Alexander Albon. 7th, Lewis Hamilton. Had a few problems in that W11. It wasn't all plain sailing, as you would like to think. Lance Stroll P8, Valtteri Bottas P9, and Sebastian Vettel P10. Sebastian Vettel doing 84 laps, of course. If you watch the sandbagging episode, not enough laps from them, even though he did do 100 on the final day. Not great timing. That is not great from the Ferrari. The second one, of course, the Monegasque Charles Leclerc. 13th position from him. Not great for him. 80 laps for the Monegasque driver. Not great. Kimi in 18th, and rounding off all the drivers that ran in the day was Esteban Ocon of Renault. 74 laps with a 1:21.5. Now, I don't know what's going on with that. There was a lot of changes between the wet compounds and the dry compounds. There was a lot of drivers spinning out, so we'll just kind of put that down to that. Some pretty good results from there. Of course, Romain Grosjean in the Haas doing 107 laps, which is the most we'd seen on day one. You can say a little bit about Haas, and we'll talk about them at the end, maybe in another kind of, not just pre-season, but we'll talk about them in a little bit. So day one, I would say, was pretty good. A few spins out, very high winds as well in Spain. Turn 5 was catching a lot of drivers out. Valtteri Bottas went off there. Seb went off there. Seb actually had quite a few spins, including the one that goes kind of uphill where I was sitting when I went to Spain, which again isn't great. Sebastian, he's got a bit of a reputation for spinning. And I don't mean like a disc jockey, but maybe you'll have to look at that, when he does retire. So yeah, day one pretty good from that. Robert Kubica storming along. I'm actually really happy what he's doing. Sergio Perez in the Racing Point. I just want to talk about him for a little bit. The pink Mercedes, the new Mercedes, or the old Mercedes, that's what they're being called, Racing Point. And you've got Otmar, Lawrence, and even Lance are denying it. They don't want to be the pink Mercedes. They want to be Racing Point or BWT Racing, as I want them to change their name to. I think Lawrence and a few of the other people behind the scenes said BWT Racing. Maybe that could be their name. They could drop Racing Point. Of course, the Austrian clean water company obviously taking a massive control now of the team. I know that they also have one in Porsche, in the Porsche Super Cup that they run adjacent to the F1 weekends. So yes, they don't want to be known as a pink Mercedes, but Sergio Perez, I'd say, does. You've always got the little smile that he's got. He's got a little bit of a spring in his step about it. You bring up the pink Mercedes, he smiles a little bit, and I'll tell you why he's smiling. We're all, if we're trying to poke fun at that, it's not working. The W10 knows, and, yes, they've just copied, and it's not getting a Sergio. If anything, he's actually liking it a bit more, because why wouldn't you want to be in the W10? Do you not know what that car did last year? That was it was a great car. So if you are saying to me that Racing Point are the new Mercedes, or the pink Mercedes, or the old Mercedes, I would love to be that. So I can see where Sergio's coming from. What's the problem? What is the problem there? So yes, the pink Mercedes, of course, we can't keep saying that, but, I'd say they're doing well. Today they didn't get the best testing, but it was strong, especially on day one. Day two brought out the big rain, so of course a lot of the kind of wet runners running on that day. This was a bit like test one, where day two was a bit of the strange day. Of course, that was where the DAS system came into effect, something that hasn't really been talked about or used much. Valtteri Bottas kind of was investigated on day one about, how is this DAS system going to work? Was it going to continue on the car? It hasn't been prevalent, unless they're just keeping it under wraps. But it hasn't been very big. The Ferraris, who have never been in the top step, who've never really been on the theoretical podium of here, 1, 2, and 3. Sebastian Vettel was on day two, and a great 144 laps, which was the most. Oh no, it wasn't. It was the second most, behind a certain Nicholas Latifi. We're getting him in a little bit. Sebastian Vettel, 144 laps in the Ferrari 1:16.8, which was the fastest time we've seen, period, out of these 5 days so far. Really, really great from him. Fantastic. Nothing you can really say. Ferrari had the lone driver. He was running in that lone SF1000. Great consistent. I mean, that's about 3 race distances there. Really, really strong from them. No real testing, just out and out, go for it. Really just try to test consistency, reliability, and trying to get all the people off the back about, Ferrari, sandbagging, and trying to get me off the back, because I've been saying they've been sandbagging, which they haven't been. Day 5 doesn't show that they have. Peter Gasly in the AlphaTauri, 117 dead for him, 138 laps, so pretty good. Lance Stroll as well, again, appearing in the top three. 117.1 for him, 130 laps. Racing Point, as I say, on point. Racing Point on point. Nicholas Latifi, very strange. 117.3 for him on the most laps that was done on that day, 158. Williams have been the team to just line up. I think I read that they'd been on day 1 and day 4. With that day 1, yes, day 1 and 4, which was the start of the 2 days, test 1 and test 2. They'd been at the end of the pit lane, waiting for the green light every single time. And if Claire Williams is talking about progress, then they've done it perfectly. That looks like progress. That's as much as you can do. That's them trying. And I'll tell you what, we can give. If they're not doing very well, so what? You can't fault trying. I know that trying doesn't get you podiums and all that in Formula One, but they're trying. Let's get, I think that's great. And of course, Nicholas Latifi, we've given him a bit of, we've given our opinions on him in the Lance Stroll episode, for example. So I'd say that's good. 158 laps, just solid in that car. Really, really strong, obviously, through the change in conditions. Lando and Norris, bit of a quiet guy, I'd say, in testing. 112 for him, 112 laps, sorry, for him, 117.5. Then you've got Max Verstappen in P6, Valtteri Bottas in P7. Again, the Mercedes, the power, it's testing, okay? It's testing. But after what happened on day 4, what was going on here? Have they watched the F1 debate show, News 24/7, F1 24/7 News? Have they watched that and they've thought to themselves, why don't we do the opposite of what Ferrari are doing? Why don't we sandbag or go back to sandbagging from last year? We'll have to wait and see. But I know Valtteri Bottas might have, but obviously Lewis Hamilton didn't. We'll get on him in a little bit. Esteban Ocon in 8th place. In the Renault, 9th place, Kevin Magnussen. 10th, Alexander Albon. Again, who's had I'd say again, a quiet testing. It's all been Max. And for the tie, does he really want that to be the kind of the thing that we get from testing? Doesn't he want to be kind of on the forefront? But you never know. 11th place, Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault. I think he set the fastest time this morning, or was. I think he was pipped at the line. He's been here and there. But he's just Daniel Ricciardo. He's got this. He's a little bit. I think he's a little bit kind of shook up. The smile's not there. Obviously, he sees that Renault's going to be a hard year this year. In interviews, he's been less smiley and less kind of chipper than he normally is. So maybe that is getting to him a little bit. Giovinazzi, 12th. But the big one, Lewis Hamilton, engine failure, hydraulics failure. 14 laps only completed by him. He had to pull over. And of course, he finishes plumb last. 1:22.4 was the time that he could record before he had to pull over. Again, a very big shock. Now, Mercedes, obviously, a lot more cars have a lot more problems. If you counted Haas's problems, you could, you'd be here for ages, or you'd have a massive hand. Mercedes, we always remember when they have problems. I always remember, 2016, for example. You tell me what 2 things you remember from Spain 2016. From 2016, you'll say the Spain crash, and you'll say the engine failure, Malaysia 2016 by Hamilton. So those kind of things always stick in your mind. So not really much to say on day 2, apart from those the times. I'd say that was pretty good. Day 3, which of course has just finished, looks like same old. Valtteri Bottas finishes the day very strong from him, completing 77 laps. His race number, so pretty good from him. The Mercedes, as I say, whatever was going on in day 5, getting stronger results today. Max Verstappen, P2. Before I say that, obviously, of course, Valtteri Bottas 1:16.1, which is just an astounding time, fastest we've seen in all these 6 days now. Fastest time I think has been recorded at Catalonia since like the early 2000s with like Michael Schumacher. Absolutely stunning. Really, really great from them. 77 laps for him. 44, 11 more than his race number was set by Max Verstappen. 1:16.2. Again, that really strong reliability. 3rd place, Daniel Ricciardo in the Renault. 65 laps for him. 4th place, Charles Leclerc. 177, a whacking 177. That is the highest. And it's Charles Leclerc. Where's he come from? Somebody who's been pretty quiet, I would say, in these testing. Ferrari and Mercedes massively playing mind games. It's like games that you play with your brother, but like a million times bigger. I don't know what they've been doing. Ferrari, Mercedes. It's been absolutely incredible. It's like handbags at dawn in a kind of like a Cold War scenario, just sending mind games to each other. Who's on top? Who's where? It's crazy. So of course Charles Leclerc fourth place ahead of Lewis Hamilton. 1:16.4 for him, setting 90 laps. Obviously getting away from what happened on day 5. Esteban Ocon, 71 laps for him, a 1:16.4. So, everyone's staying within the 1:16. You have to go down to 10th place, Danny Kvyat. He's the last driver to be inside the 1:16s. Then, of course, the next driver, Roman, in 11th, is in 1:17. So today was a stonking day. The best day to end. I feel like if this went on for another 2 days, we wouldn't actually get any, better results out than we need. So yeah, really good from them. So where was I? Yes, obviously Sergio Perez, 7th, Carlos Sainz 8th. Again, someone who hasn't really performed as well. I think he was had thought. Again, it's only testing, but it is his home, and of course, big year for him. He is going up against Lando. He is the team leader, so and obviously I've got some big words to say about him tomorrow. Stay tuned to find out. 9th place, George Russell, 143 laps. Williams have been on point, I would say, in this Test 2. Test 1 as well, really, really strong. Danny Kvyat in the Alpha Tauri, 1:16.9 with 157 laps, the last of the 1:16s. Roman in 11th, 1:17 dead with 86 laps. Kimi Raikkonen, 1:15 laps. 30th place, Kevin Magnussen with 25, and Alexander Albon, 59 laps, 1:17.8 in 14th and last place for the running of earlier today, day 6. Alexander Albon, I mean, it's just testing at the end of the day. I feel like I'm kind of breaking these drivers down for what they're going to be like, but it's just testing at the end of the day. But it's not great for him. I don't really know what he is. He said in an interview that it's because he wasn't here last year. He wasn't even testing. I think he did test 2, but I don't think he did test 1. Of course, he has had a very fast kind of promotion year, gone through Toro Rosso. Well, this time last year, as he literally just signed the papers to sign for Toro Rosso, and now he's with Red Bull, so it's gone very fast for him, and maybe, again, that's getting to him. But of course, his first full season with Red Bull, he can't be like that. As I say, Ferrari, Mercedes playing mind games with each other. Alpha Tauris, good pace from them, strong. Racing Point, loving what they're doing. Sergio Perez, this pink Mercedes is not getting to him whatsoever. But some good, consistent results. I mean, Lance Stroll as well. I think it was top, 4 and 5. Great finishes for him. Day 6, Sergio Perez, 7th place. You can't fault that. The Renaults, not really where we want them to be. Danny Rick feeling the pressure. Esteban Ocon just, loving being back in Formula 1. Again, he's got some massive support from Renault. I think he is now the team leader. And again, I think that's getting to Danny Rick just a little bit like, I've been in Formula 1, I've been at Renault, a year longer than Esteban. Why is he the team leader? Well, I've said that it needs to be Danny Rick's best year. It's his most important year. And I feel like this is getting to him. So watch this space, watch Danny Rick. I mean, he's a great driver to watch anyways, but, watch how he gets on, mind how he is, because he's going to be very juicy to watch for the rest of the season. And that smile could turn to a frown. And when it does, that's when, it's going to hit the fan. So, yeah, I'd say it's pretty good. Haas, not really much from them. I've got a little word at the end about them, of course, something that came out today. But, yeah, really, really strong. Last thing I'm going to say on testing, team of the 6 days. It's got to be Williams for me. Williams have been very, very strong. I can't count how many laps they've done, but I'm looking about 100 a day. I'm going to guess about 500-ish. I don't really know. I'm not a math guy, but I mean, look at those results. It's incredible. They've had some high finishes as well. Latifi as well, great top 10 finish yesterday. Mainly, I mean, of course, top 10 is likely, but really good from them, especially Latifi, mainly George Russell, team leader as well. And if Claire Williams is truer to her word and says that they're looking for progress this year, and the livery can't make it go fast, and testing doesn't speak for everything, but I think that from what they've done this year, from these to 6 days, is amazing. So yes, Williams for me, definitely team of testing. Best team, worst team, not really for me to say at the moment. Again, Haas haven't really been on the money, but of course, from what they were doing last year, what do you expect really? Racing Point, really strong, loving just kind of living off the pink Mercedes vibe. I don't mean to say that. I mean that Racing Point are their own team, of course. Red Bull, very consistent, mainly with Max. But to have Max testing the car on on Alex's behalf is fair enough, anyways. And obviously Mercedes and Ferrari don't know what they're going to do. Today was a strange day to have testing because, of course, with the release of Netflix's Drive to Survive, I never had Netflix when Series 1 dropped. I got it later on when everyone had talked about it. So it was nice to get it today when Series 2 was out, so I could watch a little bit of Series 2. I'm only up to episode 3. I'm not going to spoil it. Even though there's one little thing that I've got to spoil, and that, of course, is the ending. Lewis Hamilton does win the World Championship. I'm sorry I had to be out there, but Lando said it first. Spoiler alert, guys, I'm so sorry. Please don't click off, but yes, Lewis does win the World Championship. Almost as big as the spoiler that Darth Vader is Luke's father. Oh, I didn't mean to say that. I'm sorry if you haven't watched that movie. But yeah, Darth Vader is Luke's father. I'm sorry. So yes, that was today. So obviously, in terms of kind of watching it, it got a little bit waylaid between testing, watching cars go around in circles for 8 hours, and I've already done that for the last 5 days, to watching Netflix Drive to Survive. So kind of got a little bit in terms of that. But very entertaining. Not going to say anything, of course. But yeah, you should definitely watch it if you haven't already. That's a little bit of a heads up. But yeah, that was pre-season. 6 days. Pretty strong. Leave it in the comment section below what you thought of these 6 days. Of course, who do you think is the best team and who do you think was the worst team, or the team to just not really show you much? Who do you think is going to impress this year? Just tell us what you think is going to happen in these, in Melbourne and for the rest of the season. And the main thing is that I was thinking today is, for what everyone wants to say about testing, about is it good, is it bad, what's going on, is we've got 3 weeks before Melbourne. In those 3 weeks, they're not just going to put the feet up. They're going to go back to the factories. They're going to go on the simulators. They're going to do work, especially big teams like Mercedes. They're going to go and do simulator work. They're going to go and work on the cars even more and digest data from these 6 days and work on them in 3 weeks. So the cars that we're seeing today might not even be the cars we see in Melbourne. The drivers are the only probably things that will stay the same. The liveries are probably going to change, including Renault's. They're probably going to go back to yellow. And yeah, the cars might have minute changes. Probably not like Williams, but yeah, Mercedes possibly. But yeah, it's been a good 6 days. We've got some good results out there. Got some, good telemetry, a good idea of what's going to happen this year. But it's going to be very, very juicy anyways. Of course, we all know the same thing. Lewis is going for 7. Williams want to get off the back of the grid. And we'll see if they can do that. For me, of course, Williams' best team, so I'm saying that they're going to. But that's the thing, it's going to be tough. I think that they're going to be battling Haas, a team who haven't really performed these last 6 days, but you'll have to wait and find out. Anyways, that is the end of the review for testing 2, and of course the main testing. Next one back is Melbourne, and yes, we will be good to go. So obviously let us know in your comment section below. Stay on track with us if you haven't subscribed already. Please subscribe with us. Obviously keep on track with everything that we've got going in the 2020 season. Got some big stuff coming out. Episode 151 of the F1 Debate Show on Saturday. Sorry, 150 on Saturday. And yes, we'll have loads more through the season. Thank you very much for watching. Give us a like if you've enjoyed this video. And until next time, guys, we'll see you later.